unraveling a little bit. There doesn't seem to be any common sense and wisdom and understanding being used by people in positions of authority. And fortunately, we are governed by a different set of laws than those in the world. We're in the world, but we're not of it. And so there are godly laws and principles that govern our lives, fortunately. But we're still impacted by these things that are decided by others. And I know that the impact of those things creates hardships and difficult times. I don't remember a time like this where so many of our friends are dealing with things. It seems like everybody we know is in a time of difficulty. And so I thought it might be a good time to just talk about perseverance. And the godly law of perseverance produces character. And so with that in mind, I thought we'd go ahead. I got this idea kind of strangely. We were at home one night and Judy was preparing dinner and we had the Inspiration Channel on, and this fellow was speaking about different tests that God puts you through in order to prepare you for the destiny that He has provided for you, that He has spoken over you when you were created. And it was just very well done, and just spoke to us. And so I ordered the CD that this was part of, and it's called From Dream to Destiny, and it's by Robert Morris. He's out in Texas, and there are 10 tests. He uses the story of Joseph's life to draw out of it 10 tests that he believes that God used for him as well as for us to pass in order to realize the destiny that God has spoken over us. And like any good pastor, they all begin with the same letter. Now, I don't know how you get 10 things to work out with the same letter, but he did. And so it's the pride test, the pit test, the palace test, the purity test, the prison test, the prophetic test, the power test, the prosperity test, the pardon test, and the purpose test. Now, we're not going to deal with any of those except when we talk about perseverance. But I just want to let you know this is kind of where some of this material that we're going to talk about today came from. So anyway, if you would turn to Genesis 39. And if you can multitask, put your thumb also in Romans 5, because we're going to flip to there before long. But this is the story of Joseph, and it's going to cover 2 chapters, so I'll probably just paraphrase a lot of it as we go through it real quickly. But just to remind you the story of Joseph being thrown in the pit by his brothers. He's sold into slavery into Egypt, and Potiphar is the one that he ends up working for, and the Lord is with him and blesses him, and he rises to a position of power, authority in Potiphar's house. Potiphar's wife finds him attractive, and you know the story. He runs from her, and she lies to Potiphar, and he's thrown in jail. And so that's where we kind of pick up the story, and we'll start with verse 2, and it says, the Lord was with Joseph, and that's important, so let's keep that in mind. We'll talk about that later. The Lord was with Joseph, so he became a successful man, and he was in the house of the master of the Egyptian. Now his master saw that the Lord was with him, and how the Lord caused that all he did to prosper in his hand. And so he found favor in the sight of Potiphar, and then, we realize the wife is attracted to him, and he refuses her advances, and he's thrown in jail. So we pick up in verse 19. Let's go to 20, I guess. So Joseph's master took him and put him in the jail, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the jail. But the Lord was with Joseph, and extended kindness to him, and gave him favor in the sight of his chief jailer. So the jailer puts Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. And time goes on, and then there's a cupbearer and a baker that the king was very unhappy with, threw them in jail. And so Joseph then, so these cupbearer and the baker both have dreams one night. And so Joseph in verse 6 comes in and says, when Joseph came to them in the morning and observed them, behold, they were dejected. And he asked Pharaoh's officials who were with him in confinement in his master's house, why are your faces so sad today? And so they told Joseph, their story and their dreams. And Joseph said, well, no one can interpret dreams but God, but tell me your dreams. And so he interpreted their dreams for them. One was that the cupbearer would be restored to his position in 3 days, and the baker would hang in 3 days. And both of them he asked to remember him before the Pharaoh when they got a chance, but both of them forgot to remember Joseph. So that's the story I'd like to just kind of focus on right now. Joseph found himself in a very difficult situation, although he had done the right thing. He was in prison, and it was difficult, and things were not going his way. He was there, as we find out in verse 40 or chapter 41, after he interpreted these dreams for the two fellows. He was there for another 2 years. So we know he was in prison for a good while. So he was in a position of having to persevere, and he did it. Well, just let's flip to Romans real quick and just kind of look at what. We'll come back to Joseph in a minute, but Romans 5, verses 3 through 5. God says this, and not only this, but we also exult in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance proven character, and proven character hope. And hope does not disappoint. It's kind of reminiscent of another verse, James 1:2. It says, consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. So in one verse we have tribulation and perseverance, and the other verse we have trials and patience. And so what is the difference? They both seem to be somewhat similar, but they're using different words there. Patience is defined as waiting with contentment. Now, Judy and I have been traveling a lot this year, it seems like, from one road trip to another. One of our trips was up to New York City. We drove our older daughter up there. She had a summer internship. And so we drove up to Manhattan and dropped her, or settled her into her apartment, and stayed with her a couple of days, and had a great time up there in the big city, and was also glad to get back home. We're looking forward to get back home. And so we were going to make the run home in one day. And so we leave Manhattan about 8 in the morning, check out, and we had to stop in New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey, in the hotel that we stopped at on the way up, because our daughter left her cocky pillow in the hotel room. Well, you Gamecock fans ought to know that that's a matter of extreme urgency. So we picked up that pillow, and I'm thinking, all right, we're already about a half hour behind here, and we're planning on being home at 8 o'clock, and so we're buzzing through New Jersey, and then then Pennsylvania, and then I think we probably picked up part of Maryland, and then we're coming through Virginia. I'm trying to think, this is starting to feel like home now. We're at least in the South. And so we get through Virginia, and we see these signs, interstate closed, exit, I don't know what it was, 100 and something. And so I'm quickly on my iPhone trying to figure out, okay, let's find some mile markers here on this map and see if that's before or after we pick up 77 South. Well, we're working on all that, and before we know it, we're stuck in 2 lanes of stop traffic. Well, whenever I get in a situation like that, I always go to the fast lane, because it always seems like that one moves faster than the slow lane does. And so, sure enough, it does. It did. It moved pretty well for a while. And, but then the slow lane starts picking up, and I'm saying, And I'm stuck behind this old brown car with a bunch of liberal bumper stickers on it. I'm saying, I just can't stand behind this much longer. And so I jump over in the slow lane. And that seems to work for a while, and then of course, the other lane starts picking up. And so, I make a move over that lane. Well, about a half hour into this, I noticed Judy over there on the other side of the car, and she's looking at her magazine. And she's just, there's really nothing we can do about this. It's just relax, And I'm sitting there, yeah, you're right. Let's just relax. Hang on, I make another turn into another lane. And so this goes on. We're on the interstate for about an hour, and it's time to exit to go into the detour that they provided to the country roads. And so the slow lane is really moving fast. I'm thinking, well, that must be because it's easier to exit off that lane. So I maneuver over there. As soon as I do, it comes to the complete stop, and all this traffic, and the other lane starts passing us. And I'm getting, more and more frustrated, and then add insult to injury, that stupid brown car with the liberal bumper stickers just, it just buzzes right by. And it just keeps going that way. They're going so fast, I can't get over there. So we sit there forever, finally get off the interstate, get in the country road, and I'm thinking, maybe this will move faster. Well, it didn't. And so 2 hours later, I look over there, and there's Judy. Oh, we're almost to the interstate? And she'll pick up a cheese and cracker. She's just as content as can be. So on one side of the car, there's an example of patience. On my side of the car, that was not the example of patience that we're talking about here. Patience is waiting with contentment. Perseverance, however, is fighting the battle while you're waiting. It's an active, difficult time. Trials are brief. Tribulation goes on for a long time. Tribulation is a long and difficult trial. Joseph's tribulation, from the time he was thrown into the pit to the time that he was raised up to be Pharaoh's right-hand man, was 13 years. David's period of tribulation was 13 years. From the time he was anointed king, he ran and avoided Saul for 13 years before he was actually took the rank of king. Paul was 13 years in Antioch before his first mission journey. Abraham waited 25 years. So these things go on. Moses waited 40 years. So tribulation is a very long and difficult time. I kept looking for some in the Bible that had like a 5-year period. I kept thinking, well, that would be nice. But and maybe there is, but I don't know who it was. So the response to our circumstances probably determines how long our tribulation lasts. But through this, the long, difficult trial, the tribulation, character is produced. According to the Bible, perseverance produces character. Matter of fact, according to Dr. Moore, this is the only place in the Bible that says something produces character. It's not like you can go to someone that is very strong in character and say, lay your hands on me, give me character. Character is produced through perseverance and through tribulation. From that, perseverance produces character, so then character produces hope. Character is how we act and how we react to circumstances and situations. Joseph did the wrong thing but still suffered the wrong results, but did he have hope? Well, Proverbs 13:12 says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And so we look at Joseph and we look and see, does he have a sick heart? Well, no, it looks like he did not, because in verses 21 and 23 it says, the Lord was with him. And verse 7 says that he took care of he was saddened by the condition of his fellow prisoners. Verse 4 in chapter 40 says he took care of them, he ministered to them. So the whole time Joseph was experiencing this difficult time in his life, he was still focused on other people. He was still focused on ministry and taking care of those around him that were in need. Character then produces a hope. And Joseph had that hope. He was not focused on himself as much as he was on other folks. And so hope is not that God will deliver you from your circumstances. He defines hope as, hope is that God will help you walk through your circumstances. And I thought about that, and I thought about the story of Daniel and the 4 Hebrew boys. The 4 Hebrew boys, they were not delivered from their circumstances. They still had to go into the furnace, but God was with them. Matter of fact, God was with them physically, and so He helped them walk through their circumstances, but He did not relieve them of the circumstances. And the same is true with Daniel in the lion's den. He was not relieved of the trial of going in that lion's den. He still had to go in that lion's den. But God relieved him or walked him through that whole difficult situation. And he came out, as did the Hebrew boys, victorious. So, in order to pass this test of perseverance and tribulation, we need to focus on the fact that God will deliver us through this situation, and not so much hoping that the situation will change or that He'll remove the circumstances. The reason for that is that our hope is in God, not in our circumstances changing. Because if our hope is only in our circumstances changing, the longer the situation goes without the circumstances changing, the more likely it is that our heart will grow sick. We'll start to get bitter. We'll start to be jealous of other people that aren't going through difficult times. We'll be self-centered. We will stop thinking about others and the situations that they're in. So, tribulation produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character. And if we respond correctly, character produces hope. And then the Bible says hope produces appointments. Now this one, it says hope does not disappoint. So in other words, this is where you need almost an English degree, I think, to figure this out, because I never really quite understood this. But it says hope does not disappoint. So there's two negatives in that sentence. It's a double negative. Dis means not, and not means not. So you've got two nots, and so they cancel each other out. And so what it says is that if you take off the two knots, it says hope appoints. And so that's an interesting thing. It says, so hope provides us the opportunity for a divine appointment to help us walk into that which God has prepared for us. A few weeks ago, my daughter and my son went to the USC. I'm sorry about all these USC references, but that's the world we live in, or my family does. So anyway, my son and my daughter went to USC football game a few weeks ago when we played Vanderbilt. And my son took a friend with him. And so the first half of the game, the Gamecocks did very well, scored a lot of points. And so at halftime, a lot of people, probably the high point of our season so far, so a lot of people started leaving the stadium around halftime. Well, my daughter was sitting there next to a younger fellow, and they started talking at halftime. And he said, well, where do you go to school? She goes, well, I go to Anderson. And where do you go? I'm at USC. And they were both in education. And so he says, well, what grade levels do you want to teach? And she said, well, I really want to teach younger kids. I want to teach younger elementary. Because those kids, at that age, they need someone that can excite them about learning, that they can have fun learning. It needs to be just a real encouraging atmosphere. And she said, that's the kind of person I am. That's what I want to do. And so an older couple had moved down at halftime because the seats became available in front of them, because during the first half of the game they had some drunken fellow just being very annoying, and so they moved down in front. And so as Sarah was telling this younger fellow her ambitions, he turned around and he said, well, older fellow. He said, where would you like to teach? And she goes, well, I live in Lexington. She says, my family's in Lexington. I'd like to live, maybe teach there. Or I kind of like it up here in the Anderson area. Anderson or Greenville or Spartanburg would be great. And so he reaches into his pocket, pulls out his business card, and says, call me when you graduate. I'm the superintendent of Spartanburg School District. and I thought, that is a divine appointment, if I ever heard of one. And so, anyway, yeah, praise the Lord. So it was very neat. But so anyway, perseverance, very important. Gets us to that divine appointment. The theme of Dr. Morris's sermons is that God breathes. He speaks a word of destiny upon us when we were created. He has a special purpose for each one of us. I remember when I was saved, I was reading the 4 spiritual laws, and it had a big impact on me. And one of the 4 spiritual laws is that God has a wonderful plan for your life. There's nothing arbitrary about our lives. That God has a destiny for us. The only thing that prevents us from our destiny is our own messing it up, and that's very possible. So I'd like to just speak a little bit about destiny. We're going to, again, be in Romans and Genesis, but we're going to look at Genesis 45 real quick. Just a couple of verses there. Genesis 45, and I'm just going to read verses 3 through 8. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? Brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer to me. And they came closer, and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now do not be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me. Keep that in mind. I think he repeats that later. For God sent me before you to preserve life. And for the famine has been in the land for 2 years. And there will still be 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth, and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. So Joseph, at this point in time, realizes what his destiny was, or is. He was sent to preserve life and to preserve his family, the remnant of his family. So your destiny will have something to do with helping others. That's just the way God planned, that's the way God wants it. So the question is, how can we know what God's purpose is for our life? Well, there's 4 things that come out of this story, and we're going to look at Romans 12 too. But first thing is, believe that you have a purpose. Believe that God spoke that purpose over you. For there is a purpose for everything under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1, for everything there is a season, a time, and for every purpose under heaven. God created everything for a purpose. He created fish for a purpose. He created trees for a purpose, bugs for a purpose. I don't know about fire ants and squirrels, but I assume that they have a purpose too. Hard to figure those out. There you go. That's right. Give us perseverance. Thank you. That's right. So if you look at something, you can see why it was created, what its purpose was. So I went by the Walmart the other day and I picked up this thingamajig. And it's obvious by the way it's designed that it's a hummingbird feeder. And so we can look at things and know by the design of them what their purpose is. Well, the designer, God, the chief designer, has specific purpose in mind when designing each of us. So we need to be aware of that and keep that in mind. Secondly, we need to understand that God is in control. For Joseph said a couple times when he met his brothers that God sent me. He knew who had ordained all this, who had made it all happen. He knew that God had a plan for his life. And looking back, he could see it all. And he probably could see it as it was developing too, but only you can derail the purpose which God has for you by not passing the character test. So persevere. Romans 8:28 says we know, well, let me read it. We know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purposes. And as Isaiah 55:10 and 11. For as the rain and the snow come down from heaven, and do not return there without watering the earth, and making it bear and sprout, and furnishing seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so will my word be, which goes forth from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, without accomplishing that which I desire, and without succeeding in the purpose for which I sent it. So God has a purpose for everything, and he's spoken that purpose over us. The fortunate thing is, with God, if you fail a test, you can take it again. Now, I personally don't want to fail this perseverance test, because I don't want to take it again, but God in his mercy provides that opportunity. I got so frustrated when our kids this year, Max, who's in high school, came back and said, we can retake all our tests if we want to. I said, what? Are you kidding me? Back in our day, you take a test, you pass or fail, you take it, and that's what you got. And it really bothered me. I said, that's just not right. You shouldn't be able to do that. And he said, no, you study again for it. I said, is it the same test? And he goes, yeah. And I said, I don't get it. And he said, well, the idea is, you learn it in order to, if you pass the test, you've learned it. And it really, I just didn't grasp that until I realized that God allows us to take these tests over and over again. The answers to the test are right here. I mean, I hate to admit it, but I think the school system is operating on kind of a biblical basis there. I thought, well, all right, I guess that makes sense. That's correct. That's correct, yeah. That's right. They do have to prepare. They have to study, and they do have to, it's not like it's handed to them. That's right, exactly. It's a great analogy. Okay, third thing, discover your gifts and your direction. This is where we're going to flip to Romans again, and we're going to be in chapter 12. Verse 4. I'm in the wrong chapter. For just as we have many members in one body, and all the members do not have the same function, so we, who are many, are one in the body of Christ, and individual members of one another. Since we have gifts that differ according to the grace which is given to us, to exercise them accordingly. If prophecy, according to the portion of his faith, in service, one who exhorts, one who gives. He goes through a number of gifts here: prophecy, ministry, teaching, encouraging, giving, leading, and compassion, sympathizer. All these gifts have something to do with helping other people. Prophecy would be a motivator, one is motivated to help others serve God. The gift of ministry has been translated in his message to be a servant, one who meets practical needs of other people. Teacher is self-explanatory. Encourager, one who admonishes and encourages. Giver, who gives to meet the needs of others on a financial basis. And leading, an administrator, someone that's organized, and a sympathizer, that's someone very compassionate. So your gift always has something to do with helping other people. Joseph's gift was leadership. He was an administrator. He exercised this when he was in Potiphar's house. He exercised it when he was in prison. He exercised it when he was with Pharaoh. Some think that when you get into a position of authority, that's when I'm going to use my gift. Well, we see from Joseph that's not the case. You don't wait. Your way to get your position of authority is by ministering your gift right now, even in the difficult times. And that's what opens the door for you to move into that which God's prepared for you. Setbacks will occur, but keep being faithful and keep ministering your gift, and you will find that which God's destined for you to do. I guess the question is, can I know the specifics of my purpose, and when will I know? Well, if you look at Joseph, yeah, you can know. You know when you've reached it. He knew it when he was serving Pharaoh, and he was preserving lives by organizing the preparation for the famine. So step out and begin moving in the direction which God is leading you by using the gifts that God's given you. Got an excerpt here from John Wesley's diary. I'm just going to read a little bit of it for you. Sunday morning, May 5th, I preached at St. Anne's. Was asked not to come back anymore. Sunday afternoon, same evening, May 5th, preached at St. John's. Deacon said, get out and stay out. Sunday morning, May 12th, preached in St. Jude's. Can't go back there either. Sunday, the following Sunday morning, preached, this one kind of, he may have been a little bit weary about when he wrote this one in his diary, preached in someone else's place. Deacons called a special meeting and said I couldn't return. Sunday, May 19th in the evening, preached on the street, kicked off the street. Sunday a.m., May 26th, preached in a meadow, chased out a meadow as bull was turned loose during the service. Sunday morning, June 2nd, preached at the edge of town, kicked off the highway. Sunday evening, same evening, June 2nd, in the afternoon, preached in the pasture. 10,000 people came out to hear me speak. So persevere. Amen. Keep on going. So in summary, God has a specific purpose for each one of us. He's spoken it over our lives. So find your gift. There's a lot of ways. If you don't know what it is, there's a lot of material and ways to find your gift. Be faithful, even during the difficult times. Don't allow setbacks to hinder you in any way. Just continue walking in the gifting God has given you, and one day you will find yourself in the destiny that God has for you. So that was what I gained in the last couple of weeks from this and from other things. I appreciate your time this morning. May God bless you.